coronavirus spreads. That's exactly how it happens.
Listen,
because
I have been saying this all week because the coronavirus is now that they're saying
there is a new name.
What is it now?
What? You don't know the name? Keep talking, I'll find it for you.
But
It's like CVP something.
Yeah, that it's been revealed that it's actually not declining at all. It's increasing.
why do you think that it was declining?
For a day, I think that was the story. Then the next day they said
there are like 256 more deaths.
Yeah, Frank was like, it got worse.
Yeah. So I have been telling everyone, if you want to see how this shit spreads, put Plague Inc. on your device and play Plague Inc.
Yeah,
Plague Inc. will change how you behave.
That'll scare you.
Because when you first had me put it on my iPad, in Wuhan,
that's when we started
we
playing.
would watch people
that's
on
when the mobile game came out.
Yeah. We would watch people on the subway and people on the buses
and
the trains and in the malls, and we would just be like, oh my god, this is where the epidemic starts. That used to be our joke, and now this is where the epidemic starts.
Okay, so I don't know how to say this.
Okay.
I actually heard. Back up, Hufflepuff. I haven't heard anyone say this yet, but it's COVID-19.
COVID?
I have not heard anybody say it though. I think that I've only heard them say COVID-19. So, because coronavirus is not a name of a virus, it's the name of a group of viruses.
Ah, so this is another strain of it.
No, this is the specific thing that we're fighting against. It's not something new. It is the one thing that started. It needed a name. It didn't have a name. It was just part of this family of viruses. So this particular strain now has a name. It is COVID, which they did so that there was no stigmatization of people from China and blah, blah, blah.
Did you see that the French health minister announced the first death of a coronavirus patient in Europe? And it was a Chinese tourist.
Yeah, I'm sure they're going to start finding a whole lot of people that got out.
Yeah.
They flew out prior to knowing that they were sick.
Jess was telling me that there was a case in Poland because I guess they had stopped all the flights from China, and there was this one last flight that they were getting any Polish nationals out, and this Chinese guy wanted to go, and he paid a lot of money, and the guy was the airline was like, okay, go, and he had the virus.
But see, at some point you're not symptomatic, so you have no idea that you have anything. You're just wanting to get on your
Plague Inc. people.
What if you're trying to get certain people out and not let other people in? You shouldn't be able to.
But when you say you,
them.
there's a difference between the country that you're describing as opposed to the airline who wants the person to spend the money on the ticket.
See,
well,
just comes down
so one of the teachers we worked with in Wuhan married someone from Zimbabwe. They have 2 children. The children are Americans. He's an American. The American consulate contacted them and said, you need to evacuate Wuhan. We're going to take you out. And he said, okay, but what about my wife? And they said, well, she doesn't have a visa. She can't go. So he and the children stayed.
Okay, you say okay, but now everybody's in danger of potentially contracting the virus.
So she, from my point of view, she should have been given an emergency clearance to leave. She should have been able to go with her family. Yeah. But
I don't think government cares about families at that point.
Ooh, that's a big statement.
I mean,
I don't think governments care about families.
Think about it. If you have
shots fired,
if you have that situation, several of them have American passports, and one of them doesn't. Who's the priority then?
The Americans.
Exactly. So they're not going to care about your relationship at that point.
Yes, but your relationship is a legal relationship, and that person, if you're married,
they're married.
then it seems like they would get more deference as a person married to a citizen.
And they've been married for nearly 5 years, so it's not like, it's a new thing.
Right. It wasn't a marriage to get them out. It
Right.
was a marriage that existed prior to this thing happening.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that even though the World Health Organization has been saying, stop trying to close borders, because that does not help the problem.
It doesn't, because things like the guy from China paying the Polish airline extra money, they still get out.
Right. People go to different lengths that then can't be tracked, and then you end up seeing the things popping up all over the place, as opposed to do the screenings, do the checking, check the temperatures, do whatever you can do to find out if the person has it, because then you can treat them. But you can't treat them if you never see them, and if they go somewhere else and they don't feel. Watch Outbreak, people. Watch the movie Outbreak. The movie Outbreak shows this, where people feel just fine. They get on the plane, they start to feel not so great, but they think they have a cold or a flu, and then they're
tired.
Right, and then they get home, and now they're full-blown sick, but they've already infected
the entire plane.
10 people, 20 people, or whatever, and then they're sick at home, and you never knew that they were sick at any point. But if you would have had the screening things, you would have known that maybe they were starting.
Yep.
They were starting to have it, and you could have treated them before they ever got on the plane to infect all the other people. They're starting to have this term now. What is it? It's not. I don't know what it is now. Not super infectors, but super spreaders. I think it's called now.
Really?
People that infect, did what you said. They get on the plane, they infect 30 people.
Yep.
As opposed to the one person that infects one person.
Yep.
Yeah. There's now a term for those people.
Well,
I think it's super spreader.
Our kids in the school there's been something going around, and I think I might have brought it home to Keegan, because Keegan was really sick yesterday, vomiting all day long.
Yeah, I think that's something she ate though.
Who knows, but my kids have, like a lot of my students have had sore throat, which I've had the last 2 days, stomach issues where they're vomiting, fever, and the parents still send them to school. Like the child throws up the night before and then they send them to school the next morning, which is
so dumb.
It's against school policy, first of all.
But who's there to enforce it?
The nurses. If these kids walk into my classroom, like one day this week, the child wasn't there on Friday, he comes in on Monday, he literally opens the door to the classroom and all over the classroom, first 3 steps in the door. And I'm like, dude, go down to the nurse. The nurse is like, oh, he just has a cough and a runny nose, it's okay. But he's just coughed all over my classroom. Literally walks in, coughing all over everything, doesn't cover his mouth. So now everything in that area that's going to be touched all day long has his cough on it, and then these kids are going to eat lunch and touch your face and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So now they're coming around and they're spraying Lysol on my door, and they're wiping down the door frame. The problem is, my kids are 5. Most of them only come up to just above the door knob. So why are they wiping the top of the door frame and not the whole door, like from above the doorknob all the way to the floor?
So they have to do that.
No, I have a lady that comes in every single day and bleaches the shit out of my room.
Yeah, how's that working out for you?
It's not, because
everybody's gone by
she
then.
does it after school, and then the kids come in the next morning coughing all over the place.
It doesn't help.
Yeah, but if you don't separate them, if you're not choosing to quarantine your child at home when you think that they have the slightest thing, if you don't do that, then
right. Like I had a child that left on Tuesday at 11 o'clock because she had a fever, her throat hurt, and her tummy hurt. And then she was back to school yesterday. But she didn't come back on Wednesday and she didn't come back on Thursday. So her mom sent her back on Friday because she wasn't feeling good. But the problem was that she was at school with a fever.
Wait,
which means she was
sent
contagious.
her to school because she didn't feel good?
No, she didn't send her to school.
Oh, okay.
But she was at school on Tuesday for several hours with a fever, which means she's contagious.
There are so many other things, like parents have to, you either be super paranoid and as soon as you have a cough or a sneeze, you say, okay, you can't go to school.
Yeah, but you can take a temperature though.
Yeah, true. Either that or you just send them to school because you don't want them to be there. Apparently that's a thing.
A super spreader is a generic term that means someone will disproportionately infect a large number of people with a virus.
I have 24 of them in my classroom.
Nah, you can't say that.
Well, okay.
They're not. You can't say that because that means each person would be infecting, I think, 10 or more people. That's not that.
Well, if they're coughing and sneezing on their friends.
No.
No,
10 or each person.
It'd be more.
10 or more people. That's not the same thing. Right. That's not the same thing. That's not one person infecting one person, infecting one person, infecting. That's not a super spreader by these standards. But that's the thing now. They're talking about this one person that infected 11 people. They're calling them a super spreader. So that's why I said they're 10 or more. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's really crazy listening to all the stories of the people I know in China that are like they have to have a fever check and they have to have a written note to leave their house to go get groceries.
A note from teacher.
But now, one of my friends posted a video of her apartment complex, and in China, when you have big complexes, most of the time there are small markets in front or attached or nearby within walking distance.
Yeah, Frank said, well, if you can't go outside, then shouldn't there be some sort of shop under your building? It's like, dude, we live in a house. We don't have anything under our building.
in Benchi, that would have been great for like Jess and Brandy, and because they had a supermarket literally under their building. But we didn't have that.
Nope. It was 5 minutes away.
Well, that kind of supermarket. The other one was just a few steps away. However...
Yeah, just imagine a coronavirus in the Benchi walking street.
Oh, dear God. Oh, my God. No.
Every morning.
Plastic the entire building.
Every morning.
God. But my friend showed this video of her shops, and everything was all closed up. And she's like, it's getting harder and harder for us to get groceries and her kids haven't been outside in almost a month because they're all quarantined into the house and only one person can leave at a time. Like once a day they can leave and that's it. And so she's like, it's a big struggle. And someone had posted that there was an article about expats that are stranded who work and live in China who are now stranded abroad. And this woman said, oh, this is a struggle I'd like to have. And then all these people.
Stranded?
Well, because she doesn't understand. Like, sure, oh, cool, it'd be great to be, stuck in a vacation spot. But this woman comes back and says, I am the mother of a family of 5. And we are stuck in Thailand. We came here for a week. We have been here for nearly a month. We are not getting paid. We do not know when we can return. Our visas here are about to expire. We're going to have to leave the country and come back. I was prepared for a week's vacation, and now we've been here for all this time, and accommodations are expensive, and food is expensive. Yes, Thailand is cheap, but
When you're
It ain't that
that cheap when you're not making any money. And then your former employee, she and her husband are trapped in Malaysia. They had to leave Malaysia because they've been there for 30 days and their visas were expired. They had to fly to Singapore and then go back. She just posted this week that the school where they work, and most of the schools in China, the whole country, are suspended until May. So she's teaching online, but doesn't know if they're going to get paid because all that's still up in the air because they aren't in the country. And they left their Chinese bank cards in their apartment because they couldn't use them in Malaysia anyway. And it was a way to save money. If I don't have my card, I can't spend the money. And now they can't even access their Chinese money because they don't have their cards.
Yeah. I'm telling you
so,
all of this stuff, all of these businesses are going to have to solve these problems because they've got their employees stuck all over the place mostly because Spring Festival is when people travel back home in China, but it's also when all the foreigners then take vacations.
Right,
and they go all over the place, and now they can't get back.
I know at least 3 people, 3 Americans, that had traveled back to the States for Spring Festival and now are stuck. They can't go back to work.
Yep. And they're gonna have to figure out what does this mean, because they don't want to fire all these people, but they can't. People now have lives. They have apartments. They have stuff. They have
pets.
Clothes.
They have all these pets that are now.
Yep.
What was there, like 200,000 pets in Guangzhou alone that had been boarded, that have been there for so long that there are now like charity groups that are trying to help out these boarders to help feed the pets.
Yep.
But I think Suzhou, I read yesterday, was the only place in all of China that was not in quarantine.
Huh.
And I don't know why Suzhou isn't.
Have they even figured out what the origin of this is yet?
Yes. It was what? The bat and the pangolin?
Okay, well,
yeah, but which
you're
one?
saying, I know those are contradictory.
But wasn't the virus the same from both of them?
I have no idea.
I mean,
I have not been keeping.
The thing about the pangolin was, it was from a bat to the pangolin. People were then taking the pangolins and killing them and taking their scales.
But I also saw the video of the woman eating the bat.
Like I said, I have no idea.
It's one of them.
I don't think it matters.
Nope, they've got to rein it in at this point.
Well, now you need a method of treatment.
Well, somebody asked me yesterday, how is this going to affect the Olympics?
Right. Well, see, now when you start talking about that, now we're watching events all over the world get canceled. The golf tournament, women's golf tournament, that has been canceled. The MWC, canceled. Mobile World Congress, where all the new cell phones come out,
yeah.
everybody, that's been canceled because all these big companies were pulling out of it because they were like, we can't send our people to this.
Right.
And there are multiple events that are being canceled now that are coming up. And when you get to the summer, if this is still something that can't be treated and it keeps moving into, they're gonna have to start thinking about the Olympics, because how do you bring all these people? I mean, basically nobody's gonna want to be in the Olympics if it keeps going like it's going. Just everything just keeps rising the way it's going. Nothing else changes. Nobody's gonna want to be in the Olympics with anybody from China. That's gonna be first.
Well, and that's a friend of mine who's from Inner Mongolia is going to university in Poland, and she had posted something about, yes, I'm Chinese, but I haven't been to China in 2 years.
But you're also not on the Olympic team.
No. But everywhere she goes, people act like she's a carrier, like she's
exactly. You're gonna get stigmatized. That's why the name is the way it is. That's the reason for the name to be the name that it is, so it doesn't stigmatize people.
Yeah. So she's like, it's not me. Stop treating me like I'm the plague itself.
But Chinese people are. Essentially. I mean, that's the problem. People see, I mean, if all you hear is it started in China, if that's all you heard,
right.
Oh, then how do I protect myself? Stay away from Chinese people.
Right.
Stay away from Chinese people. 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 It doesn't matter if that person has lived in the States for the last 20 years and they've
Right.
never been. That's
they
irrelevant.
they were born in
I
the US, they've never
I
been
don't
to
know
China.
where that person's from.
Right.
All I know is I
They
have to
look
stay away from
Asian.
Chinese people.
Well, and it's not just Chinese at this point because,
Yeah.
let's face it, most Americans can't tell the difference.
I know. So
Between
you
any
just
Asian.
So what do?
You stay away from the Asians.
You stay away from all those people.
So there's the xenophobia of.
But I mean, but it's just like Ebola.
Yeah.
Who do you stay away from? African people. If they look African, now how do you do that?
I don't know.
Because that means if you're in a place like these states, you don't know who's African and who's not African. But the same problem is the Asian.
Well, and the same.
Or the Chinese or
Right.
the Vietnamese or whatever. So, I mean, just honestly, there's no real protecting yourself from things like this. Wash your hands. Wash your hands. Keep your hands out of your face, and
Use soap.
I honestly just I don't know. It's like protecting yourself from the flu. See, there it is. She's got it. She's lived in Asia.
I lived there for we lived there for 7 years.
She's lived in Asia.
You're right.
I lived in Asia. All four of us.
But
we
she
lived
golfed.
at the same time.
She golfed.
I coughed, so I have the.
She's
That's
she's got
it.
SARS. Man, just do it quickly.
Come on.
Why do ducks have tail feathers? To cover their butt quack.
See? These are the second grade jokes that she loves. This is what second graders love to talk about stuff. Butt jokes always work. Look at her, she's gonna die. Look, oh God, she's totally done now.
Yeah.
All right, while she is over there trying to get herself back together, oh God, the woman is crying. If you want to find the Traveling Farrs, you can find us on the YouTube, Facebook, Pinterest, iTunes, Spotify, and the Google Podcast at the Traveling Farrs. If you like the Instagram and the Twitters, Traveling Farrs. If you where my most awesome daily photo is going, email travelingfars@gmail.com and the blog space, thetravelingfars.blueberry.net. No E's in the blueberry. Go to the blueberry and listen if you want the audio only. If you want the video, then that means you gotta wait a little bit and it'll be on the YouTubes. Yes, uncut on the blog space.
Full uncut.
And uncut on the iTunes, Spotify, Google Podcast.
No. Well, that's if it goes to the blog space, it's going to all those podcasting places.
Yes.
Okay, that's the full show uncut.
The uncut audio.
No video though.
Yes.
If you want to see his holy shirt, well then you got to go to the YouTubes.
My failed Flash shirt. It was like I was trying to run away, but then I got shot many times.
So we're out of here. Say goodbye to the people.
Gone over.
Karen?
Ooh,
Karen, stop shopping. Say goodbye to the people.
bye people. Ooh, this is cool.
Peace!